Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1, Text 18. Prayaschitani Chirnani Narayana Puranmukam Na Nishpunanti Rajendra Surakumbam Ivapaka Prayaschitani Chirnani Prayaschitani Chirnani Narayana Puranmukham Narayana Puranmukham Na Nishpunanti Rajendra Na Nishpunanti Rajendra Surakumbam Vapaka Surakumbam Vapaka Prayaschitani Chirnani Narayana Puranmukam Nanishpunanti Rajendra Surakumbam Vapaka. Process of atonement. Chirnani, very nicely performed. Narayana Puranmukam, a non-devotee. Nanishpunanti, cannot purify. Rajendra, O king. Surakumbam, a pot containing liquor. Eva, like. Apaga, the waters of the rivers. Translation. My dear king, as a pot containing liquor cannot be purified, even if washed in the waters of many rivers, non-devotees cannot be purified by processes of atonement, even if they perform them very well. Purport. To take advantage of the methods of atonement, one must be at least somewhat devoted. Otherwise, there is no chance of one's being purified. It is clear from this verse that even those who take advantage of karmakanda and jnanakanda, but are not at least slightly devoted, cannot be purified simply by following these other paths. The word prayaschitani is plural in number, to indicate both karmakanda and jnanakanda. Narottam Das Thakur therefore says, karmakanda, jnanakanda, kevala vishera bandha. Thus Narottam Das Thakur compares the paths of karmakanda and jnanakanda to pots of poison. Liquor and poison are in the same category. According to this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, a person who has heard a good deal about the path of devotional service, but who is not attached to it, who is not Krishna conscious, is like a pot of liquor. Such a person cannot be purified without at least a slight touch of devotional service. Prayaschitani Chirnani Narayana Puranmukam Na Nishpunanti Rajendra Surakumbam Vipapaka. My dear king, as a pot containing liquor cannot be purified even if washed in the waters of many rivers, non-devotees cannot be purified by processes of atonement even if they perform them very well. A non-devotee, Narayana Puranmukam, one who turns away from the devotional service of the Lord. He turns his face from Krishna. He is not going to accept the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is not going to follow Krishna. He's not going to serve Krishna. He's not going to love Krishna. He is simply going to engage himself in materialistic activities under the will or whimsy of the material senses. Narayana Puranmukam, a non-devotee. A person who is in fact following the demoniac nature, that I am the controller, I am the enjoyer. He may sometimes understand that he has committed sinful activities, and therefore he requires purification. At that time, such a person may start to engage in the processes of atonement, which may be based on the principles of fruitive types of atonement. I have done this, which is bad, now I'll do this, which is good. Kind of a balancing act. It's like getting so much heat in the room and then opening the window to a certain degree. As the room gets too hot, open the window and it cools off. So one can maintain a balance like that to a certain extent, but that is an artificial balance. One is thinking that he's making things balance it out and comfortable, but in fact, he's just increasing his entanglement in the total material energy more and more, but it's just not very obvious. It is something which comes in due course of time. And sooner or later he has to pay the price for all of his sinful actions. It is not that you can nullify sinful actions by performing good actions. Sinful actions are sinful actions, good actions are good actions. Although one may, to a certain extent, nullify the bad reactions by having so many good reactions. Then the mixture seems to be somewhat tolerable. Something suffering, something enjoying, but anyway, it's going on. Then there's the jnana kanda system. By knowledge, by the increase of knowledge, one burns up all of the reactions to sinful activities by knowledge. That is also very powerful. By knowledge, you can burn up the sinful reactions which have accumulated over long periods of time. It is possible by knowledge. By knowledge, you can burn up all of these reactions very nicely. However, it does not change the root cause of the reactions themselves. That root cause being the ignorance which is within the heart, manifesting as the kama bija. Kama bija means the sinful desire seeds within the heart, which are going to cause us to act in sinful ways, even sometimes against what seems to be our own present desire. Sometimes one wonders why he is not acting in a nice way, or why he's forced to perform sinful activities. But in fact, the kama bija has already developed within the heart, and that kama bija causes our desire to manifest in such a way that we will have to fulfill some plan or try to fulfill this desire in the future. And we may not even be directly aware of it right now. Right now, we may not be aware of how in the future our desire will cause us to act, even in another lifetime, in ways which we may not at that moment think are quite appropriate. Therefore, sometimes we find that a person seemingly goes crazy and starts acting in very strange ways, which even he himself cannot understand. Or rather, he is not acting crazily in the sense that there's no cause for this, but there's a cause which is now manifesting after a long time. So, these subtleties of action, subtleties of knowledge, they're very deep, in fact. Subtle means more deep, and more powerful too. The more powerful, the more subtle something is, the more powerful it is. It's like the material energy is the most subtle of all the material ingredients. And actually it comes from Krishna, and it is the most powerful. As you get more subtle in the material ingredients, it becomes more powerful. That's what it is stated. Injyani pranihu injevyak parakmanaha manasasto mano buddhir yo buddhes paratastusa. Beyond the senses, you find, beyond the sense objects, you find the senses. Beyond the senses, you find the mind. Beyond the mind, you find the intelligence. Beyond the intelligence, you find the soul. Higher and higher. As you go higher, you'll find one thing is actually higher than the other, controlling. So the more subtle energy controls the more gross. And that is the way in which mystic yogis also may manipulate the material world by subtle energies, very powerfully manifesting in the gross realm. So these subtle material desires are very strong, and they will cause us to act even beyond all of these more gross forms of purification, or so-called purification. For instance, if you are performing some washing ceremony, like the bathing of the elephant, well, why does the elephant, he takes a bath and then he throws dirt on himself. So why does he throw dirt on himself? Because his overriding desire is not to be clean. His overriding desire is actually to be dirty. He just likes that feeling. So because he likes to be dirty, he's going to, even though he does purification, that subtle desire will push him, because he has that desire, and it will push him to throw dirt. Therefore, he will be more interested in the dirt than the cleanliness. So the problem is, so long as there are desire seeds within the heart, or as it is explained in the other verse, as long as there's the root of the weeds which are around, even the devotional creeper, they will grow up again. Therefore, these simple processes of prayaschita, or atonement due to performing some pious activity against the impious activity, or by simply developing knowledge to burn up the reactions that one may develop by knowledge, they're not sufficient so long as the desire within the heart has not changed. If the desire in the heart does not change, then there's no way to change one's entanglement within the reactions of this material world, because that desire will force him again and again to act again and again to create newer and newer reactions. So the problem is the desire. And this Krishna consciousness movement is just meant to change desire. It is just meant to somehow or another organize our Krishna conscious activities in such a way that our desire can change. Now, of course, one can be very expert at maintaining his desires under any circumstances and not change, because he's a big rascal. But you can also show that if somebody's engaged in devotional process, yet he refuses to change his desires, quite possibly that person is under the victimization of particular anarthas which are causing him trouble. And Srila Rupa Goswami delineates 6 of the major anarthas which can cause one trouble. Achaha prayasascha pajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha loyam cha sadbir bhaktir vinashiti. The 6 things which will destroy one's devotional attitude and service. Achahara means too much eating or too much collecting. If one is simply accumulating material things for himself, or if one is simply eating too much and becoming too chubby, then in this way, one gradually loses his attachment for Krishna. Sadbir bhaktir vinashati. These things destroy, vinashati, devotion, because they cause one to start to maintain a conception of himself as the enjoyer. Therefore, one has to be very careful. If he finds himself becoming too chubby, that he should back away from this, because this is going to ruin one's devotional service. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada did not like his disciples to become chubby. So, achahara, too much eating or too much collecting. Let's say somebody just wants to make himself a big personality, to surround himself with all kinds of material possessions, even if it's in a temple. So he's just collecting, just to glorify himself, more or less. And we have seen this again and again, where somebody will utilize the Krishna consciousness movement just to make material advancement, without in fact understanding the mission of preaching. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada again said, I would rather sell the marble in the temple and print books. Because he says within temples there can be fires and walls as everybody fights over material facility. I want this room, no, I want that room, no, I want the other room. And in this way, He said there would be fire in these walls. Therefore, he would rather sell the marble and print books. Because in that way the preaching will go on when the books are distributed. So the real preaching is what is important. One actually has to develop the preaching. And that is what is a temple. That is what is spirit. Otherwise it's just achahara, simply collecting and living nice. Therefore, one must always work with that attitude. And prayaschita. Now, no, not prayascha. If one is working or over-endeavoring for mundane results, sometimes you may not be collecting, but you may be just working to get some result, which is mundane. That will also ruin devotional service. You may have also seen sometimes you're doing something useless, which is not for the pleasure of Krishna or spiritual master. And at that time, one gets all frustrated within his heart, and he can't even get anything together anymore. You should understand you're engaged in prayasas, and therefore you should give it up. And prajalpa, talking all the time. This one talks to that one about this thing, and that thing talks to this thing about that one, and this goes on and on and on. Yeah. Just talking all the time. This is no good, that's no good, I like this, I don't like this. It's all prajalpa. Talk that is based on the material desires. Gramya katha. She said, he said, that they said, that she said, that he said, that they said. Village talk, over the fence. Old ladies talking over the fence. Old lady 1 talks to old lady 2, and they talk about how bad everything is in old lady 3's yard. Really important. So, this is going on continuously. And this is just causing destruction in devotional service. Prajalpa it's called. Wasted time, wasted talk. And niyamagraha, too much attachment to the rules and regulations, hardly our problem. Without understanding the purpose of them, or not enough attachment to the rules and regulations, whimsically giving them up. This is called niyamagraha. Very dangerous, both cases. One should follow the basic rules and regulations and principles and never make excuses why he doesn't have to follow them. In all departments. And janasangascha, not to become entangled in materialistic association, which will drag one down off the platform of devotional service. And lolyamcha, simply lamenting and eagerness, intense longing for material existence, of material sense gratification. Always longing, when will I get this enjoyment? We've seen devotees, sometimes they get like that. They have a goal in their mind. They think, I cannot be perfect unless I get a husband, unless I get a wife. And they're just longing. Oh, where is she? Oh, my fair maiden. Oh, where? Oh. And then gradually they become crazy and go away. Intense longing. So much longing and intense desire, eagerness. Oh, I want. Lolyam. Greed. Give me more money, give me more facility, give me more things, give me. Lolyam. It destroys devotional service. Because then one starts thinking of himself as the enjoyer and controller, and then he starts getting angry at others because they're not giving that facility. Although in fact it's Krishna. And then one starts to become frustrated, and he becomes angry and goes away. Therefore one has to avoid these 6 destructive elements. Vinashati means they wipe out devotional service. One has to perform the positive aspect of devotion. Very enthusiastically going on under all circumstances and conditions, just trying hard to serve Krishna and accomplish that which Krishna wishes accomplished, even though it's too difficult, or too much trouble, or even though it's not so difficult. One must go on anyway doing his service. Sometimes service is not so difficult, but one must do it anyway, steadily, and control the mind with knowledge. While he's performing his not very difficult service, then he can chant Hare Krishna, then he can memorize verses, then he can develop himself intellectually while he's performing these. And if he's doing very, very difficult services, well, he just starts sweating and just keeps doing it. Whatever the service is, you just got to do it, that's all. That's the point. Just go on with your devotional service and never give it up, under any circumstances or for any reason. And this is the austerity of devotional service. We don't have austerities of sitting under freezing cold rivers and freezing cold days, because we don't have such an idea, because everybody will just go away. It's too tough. Our austerity is you just go on serving no matter what happens under all circumstances. And avoid these 6 things which destroy devotional service. That is austerity. That will please Krishna. That will bring us back to God. Hare Krishna.